divinely revealed. Why chosen ones must isolate for 40 days during the supernatural alignment of, in a quiet English village, nestled among the rolling green hills. The air was thick with an exhilarating revelation. Whispers danced around the chapel as a powerful message echoed through the hearts of many. God is calling his chosen ones to isolate for 40 days to prepare for a significant supernatural alignment. The words seemed to hang in the air, illuminated with an almost divine light, igniting a fervor that electrified the congregation. Margaret, a woman of steadfast faith, felt the very essence of God's calling wash over her like warm sunlight. She always held a special bond with Saint Michael, known for protecting and guiding her family through life's uncertainties. As she stood amidst her fellow villagers, the fire of prophecy stirred her soul. The chapel, with its wooden beams and stained glass, felt alive, pulsing with spiritual energy. That evening, as shadows stretched long and the sun dipped beyond the hills, Margaret made a vow to God she would honor this call. Her sacred place became an ancient oak tree, gnarled and wise, where many locals claimed to have felt the divine presence. Beneath its sprawling branches, she prayed and sought clarity, believing each rustle of leaves carried a whisper from heaven. Yet, just as her journey began, a dark cloud hung over her heart, a sense of foreboding that twisted with her devotion. Days turned to weeks, and the unthinkable happened. Her young son, Samuel, fell gravely ill. A mysterious ailment gripped him, leaving doctors in the village scrambling, their faces pale with uncertainty. The quiet strength Margaret had embraced now felt shattered as despair crept into her thoughts. Should she abandon her calling in favor of the growing fear for her son's life? Family and friends gathered around their home, igniting fervent prayers that soared toward heaven, while murmurs and skeptical eyes hovered over Margaret. "How can you isolate now, with your son so sick?" they asked, concern laced with doubt. The weight of their judgment bore down, threatening to extinguish the flickering flame of her faith. She questioned her resolve, watching Samuel's frail form and feeling the pit of desperation widen. But even as darkness loomed, God's light began to push through. On the final day of her isolation, a divine miracle unfolded. As Margaret knelt beneath the oak, her heart a torrent of prayers, she suddenly felt a surge of warmth enveloping her. The ground quaked gently, a whisper of the Almighty coursing through her. In that moment, Samuel stirred at home, breaking the fever that had stolen his strength. His eyes opened wide, and he grasped the hand of his father, a mighty revival taking place. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Emerging from her time of isolation, Margaret found herself transformed. The once skeptical villagers now surrounded her, their hearts stirred with newfound faith and hope. Knowledge of Samuel's miraculous recovery spread like wildfire, igniting a spiritual revival as prayers were answered in astonishing ways that left many in awe. And yet, as the sun rose over the village, Margaret stood with a trembling heart, ready to share her testimony. Was her isolation merely about her obedience, or was she chosen to light a path, leading others closer to God? The shadows of uncertainty lingered, and hope mingled with fear what further trials lay ahead in this extraordinary journey of faith. The morning after Samuel's miraculous recovery, the village awoke to a gentle mist curling through the valley, like a promise of renewal. It felt as if heaven had breathed new life into the air, and as birds chirped joyously from their perches, Margaret pondered the days that lay ahead. She couldn't shake the feeling that God had just begun to unveil his plan. As she made her way to the chapel, she noticed faces bright with hope, villagers she had seen weighed down by doubt, now glimmering with newfound faith. Yet, inside, Margaret felt an unsettling tug in her spirit, a whisper urging her to dig deeper into the calling she had embraced. Arriving at the chapel, she stepped inside to a chorus of gasps. The once muted space shone with light-stained glass, bathing the room in jewel tones. The townspeople gathered for a meeting, eager to hear her story. Margaret felt their anticipation, the weight of their expectation, yet her heart thundered with vulnerability. Would they understand the true depth of her journey? Margaret called out Mr. Thompson, the village elder, his eyes shimmering with awe. "You witnessed a miracle. What did you experience during your time of isolation?" She took a moment to collect her thoughts, remembering the fear that had almost swallowed her whole. "It was in my darkest moment," she began, voice steady. "When my son was taken ill, I thought of abandoning my vow. But in those moments of prayer, I felt him so close. In the isolation, God revealed not just strength, but love that transcended all." Her words sparked animated murmurs. Margaret's testimony echoed through the gathering, each villager reflecting on their own experiences of God's touch. Hope replaced despair, hands grasped one another, and eyes shined bright with renewed vision. As the meeting progressed, the atmosphere grew electric with longing. What if we each took time to seek God's presence in our lives? One woman suggested, her voice quivering with possibility. "Yes," burst forth another. "Let us form a prayer circle, draw strength from one another, and seek divine direction." Margaret's heart swelled. This simple village, through one act of obedience, was transforming into a community pressing toward deeper faith. But among the waves of gratitude and purpose, something lingered, a sense that God's revelation was not finished. She couldn't yet see the entirety of his plan, and it left her restless. That night, nestled in the embrace of her own home, Margaret knelt before a flickering candle. "Lord, what is my next step?" she whispered, her breath catching in her throat. Would she be called to another season of isolation? Or perhaps this new adventure would require something entirely different, something that would lead others on a journey deeper than she could imagine. No sooner had the words left her lips than a soft breeze filled the room, dancing around her, wrapping her in an inexplicable warmth. In that moment, she felt the weight of the Holy Spirit, infusing her with understanding something magnificent was coming. She was chosen not just to witness miracles, but to be a part of a greater divine story. As she lay her head to rest that night, a single question echoed in her heart. What awaits those who dare to seek him fervently? Tomorrow, as midnight loomed, would a hidden truth be unveiled? Would her faith ignite a flame that would not only light her path, but also the way for others who yearn for the divine? As the night deepened, Margaret drifted into a peaceful sleep, her mind dancing with visions of hope and light. But just before dawn, she awoke suddenly, her heart racing. A voice, soft yet firm, whispered through the veil of slumber, urging her to rise. "Seek solitude," it said. "There is more to discover." Margaret sat up, the memory of last night's warmth still lingering. She understood now that this was the calling she had sensed. The whisper was her invitation to a deeper experience of God's presence. Gathering her shawl, she stepped quietly from her home, the village still wrapped in sleep, and made her way toward the hills. The path was familiar, but under this new call, it felt unprecedented, full of promise. The sun began to peek over the horizon, painting the sky with shades of gold and crimson. Each step felt like a pilgrimage, drawing her into both the beauty of nature and the depths of her own heart. She arrived at a small clearing, a sacred spot where trees formed a protective circle, and the air seemed charged with energy. Kneeling on the soft earth, Margaret closed her eyes. "Lord, I am here," she breathed, her voice a mere whisper against the stillness. "Show me what lies ahead." In this serenity, she felt time suspended, a holy moment where the ordinary mingled with the extraordinary. As she sought God in prayer, images flooded her mind. The villagers, their faces shining with faith, each child's laughter bursting forth like spring flowers, and Samuel's miraculous healing, an emblem of God's love. She knew that the purpose behind her own struggles was entwined with the community's faith journey. Their healing was tied to hers. "Open my heart to the truth, Lord," she prayed earnestly. Suddenly, she was enveloped in a gentle warmth, much like the night before. And there was the vision of a larger mission, a seed planted deep within her spirit beginning to sprout. Margaret envisioned a gathering, a sacred retreat where the villagers could come together to seek God in their own solitude, yet united in heart. "We can pray together, grow together," she thought, excitement bubbling her chest. She realized that God was preparing her to lead, to offer guidance and hope in this shared journey of faith. The sun rose higher, bathing the clearing in brilliant light, and in that moment, Margaret felt the weight of a promise. Divine alignment, she murmured, recognizing the words coursing through her. A time where faith would meet purpose, just as a flower blooms under the sun. This was her calling to help others understand their own divine purpose and the strength found in unity. But as the vision clarified, another thought surfaced, momentarily clouding her spirit. How to gather these faithful hearts? What if they resisted? What if doubt crept back into the light of their newfound hope? The anxiety gripped her, but she remembered Samuel's miraculous recovery, a testimony of belief overcoming fear. With renewed determination, she rose, brushing off the leaves that had clung to her dress. "You are with us, Lord," she declared, speaking to the dawn. And yet, amidst her confidence, a lingering question echoed back in her heart. Was she truly ready for what was to come? As she made her way back, the path felt lighter beneath her feet, but the weight of the unknown remained suspended in the air, a sweet, anticipatory tension. Tomorrow's dawn might just hold the key to not only her own heart, but also a whole village ready to embrace their divine calling. What awaited them on this sacred journey? And who would step forward, ready to be transformed by the hand of God? As Margaret walked back, the sunlight warmed her skin and filled her spirit with a sacred joy. Each step felt intentional, like a hymn echoing in her heart. She could hear the gentle rustle of leaves, as if nature itself was singing along with her. She found peace in the harmony of the world awakening around her. When she reached the edge of the village, the dawn appeared to breathe life into the streets. Villagers would soon stir, beginning their daily rhythm of prayer, toil, and laughter. Margaret felt her heart racing again. Was she ready to share her vision? Would the whisper of God open their hearts too? That morning, as the aroma of fresh bread wafted from one of the homes, Margaret chose to visit Martha, her close friend and confidant. Martha had a gift for listening, her clear eyes reflecting deep understanding. Margaret needed encouragement, and she hoped Martha would recognize the weighty call on her heart. "Good morning, Margaret," Martha greeted cheerfully as she opened the door, sunlight illuminating her face. "What brings you here so early?" Margaret hesitated before stepping inside. "I felt a pull this morning, a calling to bring the village together." She spoke quickly, desire bubbling to the surface. "A retreat where we can gather to seek God together." Martha furrowed her brow, processing the words. "That sounds beautiful, but how do you envision this happening? The village is busy. They have their routines, and some may not understand, I know," Margaret pressed, urgency creeping into her voice. "But we are bound by our faith, Martha. Look at Samuel. His healing was a testament to the power of belief. What if we could encourage others to embrace that same power?" Martha's eyes sparkled with curiosity, and Margaret found strength in that glimmer. What if this retreat can be a step towards unity, shared prayer, and hope? Margaret allowed her heart's excitement to spill over. What if we could experience a divine alignment together? I felt it, like a flower waiting to bloom. Martha nodded slowly. "You have a fire in you. I can feel it. Let us pray about this together. God may already have plans we don't yet see." They clasped hands and bowed their heads, seeking God's guidance. Margaret felt the presence of the Holy Spirit envelop them. Each word of their prayer felt like an invitation, an opening of doors she hadn't known existed. As they ended their prayer, Martha's expression had transformed. "Let us speak to others," she suggested. "If God is calling, we need to be brave. We can share your vision, step by step." With budding courage, Margaret left Martha's house, lightened by affirmation. Perhaps she could gather a small group first, to share the vision together and pray as a unit. The thought took root in her heart, nourished by faith. As the day turned to dusk, Margaret spent time walking through the village, listening to the voices around her. The vibrant laughter of children, the song of birds, and the soft chatter among neighbors felt like echoes of hope. But even amid this blooming atmosphere, doubts tugged at her. Who would be willing to come? Would they genuinely want to embrace this journey? Would she stand alone as she stepped forward? Seeking wisdom, she breathed deeply and reflected on Samuel once more. "Lord, if this is your will, then show me the way," she murmured, her heart yearning for reassurance. A serene calm settled over her. The whisper from the night before returned, quiet yet resolute. "Seek solitude for in stillness. I will reveal my plans." With night drawing near, the village lights blinked awake like stars. How incredible it would be to unite their prayers under the same heavenly ceiling. But as she gazed up at the horizon, a new question sparked in her soul. What steps would be required to open that door? What kind of preparation would the villagers need to fully embrace this miraculous journey together? As faith swelled within her, Margaret knew the answers awaited her in the stillness. And in the heart of that divine mystery, she sensed just beyond the horizon an awakening unlike any they had known before. What other messages might God send her way? The next morning, Margaret awoke with a renewed sense of purpose. The sun streamed through her window, casting a golden glow on her face. She could feel the warmth settle deep within her, as if the light itself was affirming her calling. Today was different. Today, she would take the first crucial step forward. With a heart full of hope, she decided to begin by reaching out to a few trusted friends. People who not only understood the depth of faith, but who also carried the same desire for connection with God and each other. As she walked through the quiet streets, the morning air was crisp, refreshing, and charged with anticipation. Margaret's first stop was George, a farmer known for his unwavering belief and tireless work in the fields. He often spoke of faith with such passion that listening to him felt like being in the presence of something sacred. She found him tending to his chickens, humming softly as he worked. "Good morning, George," she called, waving as she approached. He looked up, his kind eyes sparkling with joy. "Good morning, Margaret. What brings you out here so early?" "I've been thinking," she paused, gathering her thoughts. "How powerful it would be to gather the village for a retreat, a time of prayer and unity. Would you be interested in joining me?" A thoughtful smile spread across George's face. "You know, Margaret, that sounds beautiful. In a world so busy, we need reminders of the peace found in prayer. Count me in." Strengthened by his enthusiasm, Margaret continued to visit others. Eleanor, the village teacher known for her wisdom, and Isaac, the quiet carpenter with a heart as big as his hands. With each friend she spoke to, the spark of a beautiful vision flared brighter. As the sun reached its highest point, Margaret finally returned home, her heart dancing with joy. Each affirmation from her friends felt like a thread weaving them together, creating a tapestry of love and belief. She couldn't shake the feeling that God was orchestrating something extraordinary. The following days unfolded with sweet purpose. They agreed to meet by the village green, a patch of earthy ground surrounded by ancient trees, a perfect backdrop for their gathering. With each invitation, Margaret felt God's presence guiding her, reassuring her that this was his plan. But as she sat under the shade of a great oak tree the next day, a familiar sense of doubt crept in. What if it's not enough? She whispered to herself, wrestling with uncertainty once more. What if I can't carry this by myself? The enthusiastic voices of her friends echoed in her mind, yet felt overshadowed by the question of how to reach everyone else. Just then, a breeze rustled the branches overhead, and Margaret was reminded of the whisper she had felt before, urging her to seek solitude. I must find a way to be still again, she thought, yearning for clarity. In that sacred moment, an idea illuminated her heart. Perhaps she could invite the villagers to join her in a preparatory day of prayer and reflection before the retreat. An open invitation for anyone willing to explore this journey together. It would be a day to empty their minds of worries and fill their hearts with divine purpose. A new fire ignited within her, pushing aside reservations. After all, was she not, like the seed planted by the river, destined to flourish with care and faith? Margaret decided to meet with her friends once more to share this newfound intention. But would it be enough to draw others in? Would their hearts respond to this call? A gentle whisper returned in the wind. Those ready to listen will find the way. As she felt the sun setting behind the hills, a new question sprouted deep within her. Was she prepared, not just to lead, but also to step into the depth of faith required for such a gathering? Margaret took a deep breath, watching the horizon bleed into hues of purple and gold, as the evening sky whispered of things yet to come. The answers still danced just beyond her reach, waiting for her to recognize them. What lessons might they learn together in faith? What miracles could unfold when they truly came together in prayer? The air was heavy with promise as Margaret gathered her friends under the expansive oak tree. The sun drifted lower, casting long shadows across the ground, and it was as if time itself had paused. The atmosphere hummed with anticipation, each of them sensing the gravity of this meeting. "Thank you all for coming," Margaret began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "I believe God is calling us to something deeper. A day of prayer and reflection before the retreat. A chance for us to prepare our hearts and invite others." She glanced around. The hearts of her friends mirrored her own eagerness and slight apprehension. George nodded, his eyes shining with support, while Eleanor, always insightful, folded her hands, ready to listen. "What shall we focus on?" Eleanor asked gently, her soft voice echoing in the stillness. "We must have a clear intention or theme that guides us." Margaret took a breath, sensing the Holy Spirit stirring within her. "Perhaps we should pray for unity," she proposed, "for open hearts to be transformed and to transform others." Isaac, who had been quietly reflecting, broke his silence. "And courage. We need courage to reach beyond our circle, to welcome those who feel lost or alone." The others nodded, and a wave of reassurance washed over her. They were all thinking on the same wavelength, their spirits intertwining as though they were part of a divine tapestry. "I can help spread the word," George offered enthusiastically. "The farmers nearby, families, the youth, we can gather everyone. This is meant for everyone." "Oh, but what if they resist us? What if they say no?" Margaret's heart began to race again, fear creeping into her mind. "What if I'm not enough?" Eleanor reached out, placing a comforting hand on Margaret's shoulder. Sometimes, love's invitation is met with hesitation. It's in those moments we gather more strength together. We must trust that there is someone out there waiting to hear what you have to say. A warm light flickered within Margaret as she absorbed Eleanor's words. "You're right," she whispered, feeling stronger. "It's not about me. It's about him and the message we carry." As they shared ideas, plans unfolded organically. They envisioned songs of worship interspersed with prayer, moments of silence intermingled with laughter. Each idea was a brushstroke on the canvas of their upcoming gathering, rich with faith and hope. As the sun dipped lower, casting a golden shimmer upon them, Margaret felt a wave of peace envelop her. The doubts that had plagued her moments ago began to melt away like morning mist. The breeze danced playfully around them, as if the world itself was whispering a promise. "Let us all meet here again tomorrow to finalize our plans, to pray together and seek God's guidance," she suggested, her voice firm with conviction. The group agreed. As they parted ways, Each person was infused with purpose. Margaret turned to watch them leave, her heart swelling with joy. She felt a shift in the atmosphere, a reminder that God was not just there, He was bringing them together. That night, Margaret knelt by her bedside, her heart full of gratitude. She prayed earnestly, seeking clarity and strength, but also a deeper connection to something greater than herself. Lord, let this gathering be a reflection of your love. Let it touch every heart that walks through. But as she closed her eyes, a stirring unease crept into her spirit. What if beyond their little group, the village was not ready for this call? What if they faced hostility? And what about her own unspoken fears? She fell into a deep sleep, but the echoes of her prayers hung in the air, unresolved, waiting for answers. Margaret couldn't shake the feeling that the challenges ahead would not only test their faith, but deepen their connection to God in ways she could not yet fathom. What reception awaited them when they stepped out in faith? What would the journey reveal? In the silence of that night, the true adventure beckoned, the adventure of faith against all odds. Margaret awoke to the gentle light of dawn spilling through her window, painting soft hues on the walls. She could hear the birds outside, their sweet songs weaving through the quiet morning air. Yet, her heart still carried a weight. It was there, a mix of hope and uncertainty, swirling within her. As she made her way to the oak tree, the one which witnessed the blossoming of their ideas, she noticed the dew glistening on the grass. Each step felt heavy, but beneath the weight lay the assurance of purpose. Today, they would solidify their plans, a commitment to their shared faith. There was a hush in the air as she arrived. The tree stood tall, a testament to resilience, and for a moment, she felt its strength wrap around her. George and Isaac were already there, their heads bowed, absorbed in prayer. Margaret quietly joined them, feeling the presence of God surrounding their gathering like a warm embrace. Margaret listened to their prayers, words flowing softly like the gentle wind. "Give us strength, Lord, to face what lies ahead." George's voice was steady, each syllable resonating with intent. Isaac's voice followed, rich with sincerity. "Help us to be beacons of light in this community. Let our hearts be open to those who will come, even those who may not understand." Here, in this moment, she felt the unease lift, replaced by an inner assurance. They were not merely four individuals. They were soldiers of faith, ready to battle uncertainty and fear through the Holy Spirit. Soon, Eleanor arrived, her presence like a calm river flowing into the gathering. "I've spoken to some families already," she began, her eyes brightening. "And there's a real curiosity among the youth. They want to belong somewhere." Margaret's heart leaped at the sound of those words. Hope trickled in, mingling with the resolve forming within her. "That's wonderful. Maybe we can offer something for the children during our prayer day crafts, or a story time, something that makes them feel included." "Absolutely," George exclaimed, excitement bubbling over. "If we bring joy, then our message will be more inviting." As they brainstormed the details, Margaret felt a connection growing stronger between them, each idea a thread weaving them tighter together. Yet, a quiet voice inside whispered of the challenges still ahead. "What about the others?" George asked suddenly, breaking through her thoughts. "What if people criticize or dismiss us? What if they see us as naive? God has called us, and He equips those He calls." Eleanor reminded them gently. "We are not alone in this." That night, as Margaret prepared to sleep, unease returned. She could not shake the thought that their faith would be put to a gritty test. What if they faced anger instead of acceptance? What would they do? Margaret knelt by her bedside once more, lifting her heart in surrender. "Lord, help me to be brave to embrace whatever comes. I trust in your plan, even when the path is unclear." As she closed her eyes, a vision nudged at her consciousness, faces of those she had never met, lost souls waiting to hear a word of hope. But behind that vision lay shadows as well. Doubts lingered, questions whispered in her mind, reframing the light of her faith. Would they receive this message of love? Would the community embrace their gathering, or would it be met with skepticism? The night wrapped around her like a comforting blanket, but within it mingled the thrill of anticipation. Tomorrow would be a new beginning, the stepping stone into uncharted waters. Margaret drifted into sleep, the fragile boundary between dreams and reality collapsing as she felt God's presence. Her heart yearned for answers. What if their act of faith sparked something remarkable? What if the winds of change were blowing at the cusp of tomorrow? The excitement hung thick in the air, beckoning them to the forthcoming challenge, the call to rise above fear and take that divine leap. As dawn broke, golden light unfurling across the horizon, Margaret felt a palpable tension in the air. Today was not just another day. It was the day they ventured out into the heart of their community with a message of hope and faith. She could already hear the whispers of the morning, promising a new beginning. Yet, beneath that promise lay an undercurrent of fear. Arriving at the park, Margaret was greeted by Isaac and George, both looking nervous but determined. Eleanor joined them shortly after, her smile bright but edged with concern. Their small gathering felt monumental, a tender seed sown, ready to burst forth. They huddled together, hands clasped. Margaret could feel the warmth of their grip, their shared strength. "Let us pray once more," she suggested, her voice steadier than her heart felt. "Lord, guide us today," Isaac began, his voice steady and filled with conviction. The others echoed his words, each prayer palpable in the brisk morning air, rising like a sweet incense to heaven. As they prayed, Margaret felt an even deeper awareness emerge within her. She was not just embarking on an outreach. She was stepping into a spiritual battle, equipped by an unseen force. "We are called," she whispered to herself. When they finished, George looked around and said, "Okay, let us do this. It's time." The words were simple but heavy with meaning. With hearts beating faster, they set up their small table decorated with bright papers for the kids, handmade crafts proudly on display, and a stack of inviting flyers about their prayer group. Margaret's heart raced. What would this day bring? Would they find the acceptance they so desperately sought? She glanced at the horizon, where shadows of uncertainty lingered like clouds before a storm. The first few families wandered over, curiosity etched on their faces. Children tugged at their parents' hands, drawn to the colorful setup. Margaret felt an unexpected joy rise within her. Families were looking, engaging, sharing smiles. "Hi there," she chirped, her voice warm and inviting. "We're having a gathering today, focused on faith, creativity, and community. Would you like to join us?" The response varied. Some smiled, some hesitated, and others looked cautious. She could sense the thin line between acceptance and skepticism hanging over them. Suddenly, a woman approached, her brow furrowed. "We don't need any more church activities," she said bluntly. "We're managing just fine." The air thickened. Margaret's heart sank. This was a resistance she had dreaded. But as the woman walked away, Margaret felt a stirring in her spirit. "Lord, give me strength," she prayed quietly. Her eyes softened as she watched a little girl step forward, drawn to the art supplies, her wide eyes shimmering with innocent wonder. "Can I make something?" the girl asked shyly. "Of course." Margaret beamed, crouching down to meet her gaze. "What do you want to create?" In that instant, everything shifted. The woman's words faded into the background as Margaret focused on this moment of connection. She guided the child, and soon others joined, the table transforming into a vibrant hub of laughter and creativity. Their fears dissipated like morning mist under the sun's embrace. And yet, somewhere deep inside, whispers echoed once more. What if this was just a beginning? What if the real challenges awaited them just around the corner? As the hours stretched on, families began to gather more closely, intrigued by the warmth that permeated the atmosphere. Margaret exchanged glances with George and Isaac, their eyes filled with defiance and determination. The seeds of their mission were taking root, but she could still feel the weight of doubt lingering like an unwelcome guest. In that moment, hope sparkled in the air as laughter danced around her. But what lay beyond this day? What battles would they face as they steered deeper into uncharted waters? Margaret's heart quickened, a mixture of excitement and trepidation. In the undercurrents of their gathering, she felt they stood at the brink of something divine, something more than they could imagine. With every smile and whispered prayer, they pulled closer to a truth they had yet to uncover. How would they rise to meet the full scope of what God had planned for them? As the sun climbed higher, so did the stakes, and the question lingered. What awaited them in the days to come, both the joy and the test? The atmosphere shifted as the laughter of children filled the park, intertwining with the tender murmurs of prayer still echoing in Margaret's heart. Each vibrant splash of color on their crafts table became a reminder. Creativity was a direct outpouring of divine joy. As families continued to gather, sentiments shifted towards curiosity and fellowship. Margaret approached each visitor with compassion. Their faces, once lined with skepticism, began to soften as she shared anecdotes of hope and community. Not everyone was ready to embrace their message, but even the guarded hearts seemed intrigued. There was a miracle in these moments, a heartbeat of connection gently beating beneath the surface. "Do you need help?" asked a boy, perhaps 7 years old, holding a handful of ribbons, his big eyes twinkling with eagerness. Margaret knelt beside him, smoothing her hands over the colorful materials. "Absolutely. We need you to help us make something beautiful. What do you think we could create together? Maybe a banner, for everyone to see," he exclaimed, passion spilling from him like sunlight breaking through clouds. "Yes, a banner of hope. Let us do it." Margaret felt elated, her spirit buoyed as ideas poured forth. This wasn't merely a gathering. It was a movement of hearts igniting in unison, echoing God's love back into the world. As the day went on, George and Isaac wandered among the growing crowd, sharing stories, inviting the hesitant to join their fellowship. The air was thick with anticipation, yet so sweet it almost felt sacred. Margaret watched the scene unfold, her heart swelling with gratitude. They were so much more than a group of friends. They were vessels of a greater purpose. Suddenly, Eleanor pointed towards the edge of the park. A family stood at a distance, hesitating. Margaret followed her gaze, feeling the tension in the air again. There was something in the way they lingered, a silent battle within themselves. She could see the doubt mingling with curiosity. "Should we invite them over?" Eleanor asked softly, as if reading Margaret's mind. "Absolutely. They need to know they are welcomed here." The urge to reach out was more than encouragement. It was divine intuition urging them to demonstrate love. With a warm smile, Margaret approached the family. "Hello. We'd love for you to come and join us. We're making crafts and sharing a message of hope." The parents exchanged glances, their reservations evident. Yet, as they stood on that threshold, the little girl from that family took a brave step forward, her fingers brushing against the bright colors that seemed to beckon her closer. "What are you making?" she asked, genuine curiosity lighting her face. Margaret smiled, her heart quickening with joy. "Hope. Would you like to help create a part of it with us?" Before the family could respond, the little girl's eyes sparkled. As she nodded and moved forward, Margaret allowed herself to believe that barriers could break with love and shared creativity. As more families began to join, arms entwined in laughter and connection, Margaret found herself overwhelmed with gratitude. But as the day unfurled into the late afternoon, she couldn't shake the feeling that what lay ahead would require an even deeper well of faith and courage. The horizon, once brimming with light, now displayed shifting clouds, hinting at a storm. The deeper they ventured into this outreach, the higher the stakes rose. What lay beyond this day? What uncharted spiritual battles awaited? With hearts open and filled with hope, they had taken the first steps. But Margaret sensed a divine calling stirring in her spirit, an invitation to a journey beyond what they had imagined. If this day was merely the overture, what symphony would they face next? The whispers grew louder, and Margaret felt the pull of a greater purpose as she prepared her heart for decisions that could lead them into deeper faith and perhaps deeper trials. What challenges were waiting just around the bend? As the day began to fade into twilight, Margaret felt the spirit of excitement still thrumming in the air, tempered by the weight of uncertainty that loomed ahead. She stood beneath the sturdy oak tree, observing families laughing, sharing stories, and creating bonds that stretched like vibrant ribbons in the gentle breeze. But with every smile exchanged, another question crept in her heart. What would tomorrow bring? The sun dipped lower on the horizon, painting the sky with shades of amber and lavender, as if the Almighty himself was preparing the world for a grand revelation. Yet, amidst the beauty, Margaret sensed the profound responsibility resting on her shoulders. A voice rose within her, inviting her to surrender the worry and trust wholeheartedly in God's plan. As the last light flickered away, a crowd gathered before her, all eyes expectant and curious. Margaret, a woman called, her voice cutting through the soft sounds of children at play. What inspired you to begin this gathering? What is the heart behind it? Margaret took a deep breath, centering herself. This was her moment to share not just her story, but the message of hope that God desired to deliver through them all. In that sacred space, illuminated by fading sunlight and filled by eager hearts, she spoke passionately. God has been weaving a tapestry of faith through our trials and victories. Each of us holds a piece of that tapestry, and together we can create something beautiful. This gathering isn't just about crafts or prayer, it's about community, about stepping out of isolation and into the light of fellowship. Her words rang out, reverberating in the souls of those present, igniting flickers of renewed faith. Each story shared was a brick laid upon the foundation of trust. Individuals who once doubted their belonging now stood shoulder to shoulder, hearts open and ready to receive. Laughter resonated, but even more profound was the sense of belonging that blossomed like wildflowers breaking through concrete. Among the gathering stood Samuel, his eyes bright with the clarity that only a child can possess. "Can we do this every week?" he asked innocently, his question cutting through Margaret's worries as he clasped her hand. "Yes," she replied, her heart swelling. "If we're all willing, we can make this a regular place of connection, a place where faith flourishes." As that simple idea caught fire, a collective cheer filled the air. The villagers began to exchange glances of excitement and possibility, opening doors within one another that they didn't even know existed. For each person, it was as if scales had fallen away, revealing hidden strength and purpose. Yet as the evening continued, lingering doubts tried to intrude. "Will they come back?" she thought, anxiety trickling through her heart like a cold draft. But just then, a strong wind swept over the gathering, stirring the leaves around them and carrying away her concerns. She glanced at the faces surrounding her filled with hope, united in spirit. The divine connection woven through each heart was undeniable. And so it was that through prayer and shared laughter, a new chapter began for the village. They organized weekly gatherings filled with joy, prayer, and service to one another. Families formed prayer partnerships, children painted with wild abandon, and the stories of what God was doing among them began to spread beyond their town, igniting passion for faith in others. In time, the village transformed into a vibrant community, a haven of hope in a world often shrouded by loneliness and discord. People flocked to their gatherings from neighboring towns, drawn by the warmth and the undeniable presence of God that enveloped them. On a particularly bright morning, surrendered to joy, Margaret knelt beneath the oak tree once more. "Thank you, Lord, for leading us," she whispered. "You have turned our fears into faith, our isolation into community." And in that silence, amidst the rustling leaves, she felt a presence, a gentle warmth that wrapped around her like a protective embrace. "Keep going," a voice seemed to whisper, resonating deep in her spirit. "This is just the beginning." She rose refreshed, her heart brimming with gratitude and clarity. God had entrusted her with a mission that was unfolding before her eyes like the petals of a flower. It was not merely about her. It was about igniting a fire of faith in each heart willing to carry it forth. As the villagers gathered around her, eager to share in this divine journey, Margaret understood that they were not alone. They were chosen, a generation ready to embrace God's calling together. This was their time of alignment, a time to shine brightly as vessels for God's love, forever connected in faith, purpose, and divine grace. And so, beloved friends, if this story has touched your heart, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for more stories of faith unfolding. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, so others can find hope in these tales. Comment below your reactions and testimonies about this Ending Your Voice Matters. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see these manifestations of faith. Together, let us spread the light far and wide.